Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Strat Corner Podcast, brought to you by the VGF. I am Scott, a.k.a. Zhang, your host, lovely host, and this time around, we're doing Lee, and actually have some Midwest blood back on the podcast. It's been a while. We've had some ex-Midwest players, but it's been a little while since we've actually had people who played hardcore Tekken in the Midwest. So I will introduce him for you, Jody the Great. Maybe you heard of him. He's won some tournaments and whatnot. What's going on, Jody?
What's going on, dude?
So for those of you out there who may not know who Jody is, he's from STL. We know him around here. He won last year UFG T7. I was actually at that tournament. Unfortunately, not the biggest turnout, but, still gets you EVO points, so you got to put it on the resume somewhere. But for those who might not know you, kind of give us a little bit of a background. I know you personally from, the T5 days, but, tell us when you started, who I'm sure you played with Slips and those guys, but, how did you get into it and all that good stuff?
Mostly as a kid, I played Tekken most of the time, but at the time you didn't know about high level or low level play. And, T4, me and my guy brother used to play with a few other people back at the Till days when those plazas was, our main arcade scene. There were other arcade scenes at the time. But, I started getting more serious during the Tekken 5 days. And that's when I got to know Slips, STL, Bad Boy, and the rest of them. And, I was just a scrub and just take the beatings back then. And here I am today.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If you play with Slips on a regular basis, it's kind of hard not to take the beatdowns every once in a while. But that's just how it goes. So you did the T5 thing. Like I said, I know you back from the T5 days. We've actually played against each other in tournaments. So you're in the T6 scene, I know. Are you real hyped for Tekken Tag? You guys been digging deep into that? Honestly, other than you, I don't even know who plays really in STL anymore because I think Slips put it down. But you'd have to fill me in on that.
It's not huge like it used to be. In STL, there's still a handful of us that plays. And Slips, he really don't like Tekken Tag 2 so far. He's going to try to jump in and see how far this game's going to go, but, he probably is going to say F the game. Because Mortal Kombat is right now the good game that we like to play mostly. A handful of us down here. And T6 so far, it's just a game that, I sucked at it when it first came out because I didn't understand the game very well. And, it took me the long way just to get better and understand this game. So that's my fault on that part. But at the same time, it's kind of saying, we was a year and a half behind on the game like no one else, like East Coast, West Coast, down south, they had it before us. But, we just played the game. We had fun. Other than that, the scene is mostly like AE, Marvel, and Mortal Kombat. But I'm going to try to keep playing the game. I'm going to try to stick to Tag 2, see how this game is going to go. But so far, my other game is MK.
Yeah, I know at our last big tournament when you guys came up here, we played. And unfortunately, I actually wanted to sit down and get a good session in with you because, I'm a LoL player. I know you're a LoL player. And kind of got the beat down a little bit, but, we only got to play one match. So that was a shame. But I'm glad to have you on the podcast because it's been a long time coming for this Lee podcast. And, with Fighting GM making such a big splash in the scene, a lot of people recognize that Lee isn't necessarily a top-tier character, but I think a lot of people underestimate his ability. So, we're just going to jump right into it from there, and hopefully you can kind of educate myself as well as all of our listeners, try to, figure out this character, let them know, even though, Fighting GM, he's obviously a top-level player, just absolutely great at what he's doing right now, taking this character to the next level. But hopefully we can kind of explain to everybody out there, the intricacies of Lee, if you're having trouble with them, or I don't know, maybe if you live in New York and GM is giving you the beat down on a regular basis, maybe this will help you a little bit on that. So I'm going to start off. I usually just kind of throw a general question out there to our experts, and we just kind of go from there. So let me throw this question out at you. For Lee as a character, where do you think his biggest strengths are, and where do you think his biggest weaknesses are?
His biggest strength is punishing, mostly punishing, and his weakness is sometimes is trying to get in for the kill because he's very unsafe. So it's like basically your whole fight is respecting the other character and just try to punish. Otherwise, if you just try to go in, you're going to die. Unless you brought fear into this person's eyes that you don't want to attack Lee. Even though Lee has very few amount of tools to make you scary in defense mode for Lee. But in offense, it's just basically like, if you don't know this character, if you let us rush in, we're going to beat you. But if you know this character, we can't rush in because we're going to die just like that.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because I was actually thinking about like all the Lee matches that I've seen, and you, GM, and there's a couple other Lee players out there as well. But it looks like a very defensive play style, like no matter what. Unless you know that you have them on the ropes, you're just like backing up, looking for magic fours. I know that I see a lot of, I think it's back four, the spin kick that can go into Hitman. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I see that getting thrown out a lot. So what other tools does he have to kind of, not to steal the phrase, but, you know, like put up that brick wall and keep people out?
Like, yeah, there is back four into Hitman. Sometimes back four into Hitman. You have back three. You can do like a down for one's a good move for pressure a little bit, but don't try to abuse it. I want to say up back three, but it's not that safe for real. Like, you got magic four as usual, and you also have like down back three as an inside game to mix in, but you don't want to do it too much. Even though if they block it, it's only wild rise and kick punish. He has very few amount. Even down two. If they don't walk it, down two is a really good move to use.
Can you walk it both ways or just one?
I believe you have to sidestep right.
So is that just like a general theme for Lee? Does he have a weakness to the side right, or is it just down two specifically?
I could be wrong. It's probably just down two specific, but like a lot of people don't walk down two because they're not really catching it coming because we don't abuse it. So it's just that move where if somebody try to attack, we just like try to mix down two in there, even though they're going to sit back and block it. Because I've seen it got walked before. It can get walked just like 4-2-1. I didn't know it can get walked until I learned my lesson a year ago. Well, 2 years ago. But like, it's based on timing and spacing.
So you mentioned the forward 2-1. Is that like after you block the forward 2, or you can just walk the forward 2?
If I whiff the 2, just walk the 1. But it's probably a way, but I believe the 4-2 tracks almost. But I'm trying to remember mostly when I fought Mr. Naps because he was walking it a lot. I don't know if I was whiffing it or he did it on after blocking the first hit. Because it's been a while since the MLG in North Carolina when I did that. And I learned my lesson not to use that attack like that anymore.
All right, so you mentioned the whole pressure game. So, like, it sounds like, you know, most of the time you're just kind of sitting back waiting for your opening. So let's say that you have that opening. You mentioned the down two. What other tools are you using? Like, what other moves are you doing once you get in? Like, I know, like, personally, when I was playing Lee, I was a huge fan of 1+2. Just because it tracked well, put you in crouching, gives you plus frames on hit. It isn't punishable at all. It's only -1, I think. So I mean that was always a huge tool for me. But I know he's changed a little bit, in T6. So what kind of moves are you looking to throw out?
Actually, that's a good one. 1+2. I still use that move. It's very safe and it's a good mix-up game where the trick into 1+2 is that if you use it and the person blocks it, you just tap up and you can just go into any move that you want to do. Like, I like to put like a triangle game, like where it's either going to be a low, a throw, or mid.
So I was going to say for that mix-up game, I come from a law player background, so I love the slide mix-up. I know that for Lee, and Lee players are very 50-50. Some people like to use the slide, some people don't. For you personally, do you like to use the slide? Do you use it at all? Or is it just one of those things that, maybe you'll throw it out on a rare occasion, but for the most part, you don't use it?
I try to use it on a rare occasion because most of the time they suspect Lee players to just use slide abusively, just like a law player would. So it just be like, oh, he's not using slide. Then randomly it just come out like, oh, he did use slide. It's the same example of me, like, if you see me fight, people think, like, I don't use launches with Lee, but I really do. I just don't want to abuse it where, oh, the knee is coming. And it's like, wow, this first 2 matches, the knee is not coming. And all of a sudden, oh, there's the knee. It's kind of making, like, mind games on people. I mean, other than the 1+2 mix-up, you can always do, like, a down 4-1 if you time it to get another down 4-1 and like basically mix and grabs. I mean, I don't see a lot of people do that a lot, and it's very valuable. And I know that people are very good at throw breaking, but you can't break all the throws. That's always been our rule down here in St. Louis. Like we can be good at breaking throws. You can be an expert, but you can't break all the throws. You're gonna drop it sometime.
I'm glad you mentioned that because on our last podcast, I remember we mentioned that, and we've mentioned it a few times throughout the podcasts, that, and I know they actually say, New York is the best at, there's a lot of players that say, New York is the best at throw breaking. But even those guys, I mean, they're going to miss throws. And eventually you're going to get a throw if you're doing it enough. So, and, I personally, I don't know if you have, Jody, but I've played fighting GM, and I've been able to throw him. Like, he's really good at throw breaking, there's no doubt, but, throws, I've been able to sneak in throws. So, definitely something to consider. Something I did want to ask you, though, speaking of throws, I know, like, back in the day, after the 2-grab throw, I know he had, like, Oki options, like the down 4 string, and stuff like that. Does he still have those, or did they change up the grabs?
He still have those. It's still cheap. Like, I guess back, what is it, Clash? When I did that setup, because it took him a life. But, like, I guess everybody learned their lesson, like, don't ever, wake up on a 2-throw against Lee, because it's a stupid mix-up game where if you back roll, you're going to get hit with down 4s, or if you wake up on, you're going to get hit with down 4s, or even 4-2-1s will work. But, like, against certain characters, you don't want to wake up on certain throws because you're going to get hit with this ton of life. So the basically best thing to do against all these characters is just take the low. I mean, take the 16 points. You don't want to lose 40 more.
I know the forward 3+4 grab doesn't allow for too much because you can tech roll off of it. You'll have to remind me, what is the 1 grab? I don't even remember what it is.
It's like a twisted. It's like a little twist, like a reverse DDT almost. And I learned that if you time it right, you can actually get a back grab if they wake up wrong.
So still some scary wake ups off that too then.
Yeah, I was messing around a week before I went to Kansas for the Midwest qualifiers, and I'm like, wow, that's very dirty. But I didn't try to use it in the tournaments because I'm not really trying to be fancy with it. It's just something like, wow, that's really BS.
Gotcha. So you mentioned, not to backtrack too much, but so you mentioned the whole punishing game. So I know he still has one of the best 10-frame punishers in the game with 1-2-4. So is forward 2 isn't 12, is it? It's not. I can't remember like all the frames for it. So after 1-2-4, what does he have after that?
Basically, if you do 1-2-4, you don't get nothing good after that. If you do like 1-2, you're like on hit. It puts you at +7, something like that. So it gets you a 50-50 guessing game. If somebody try to act stupid, I'm trying to remember mostly the frames on it. But like, I sometimes do 1-2, and some people wonder like, why doesn't finish it? Like, I'm trying to put a guessing game on people. It's like Lee's down for a 3 on hit is +9. And you can just get whatever you want if they try to attack. But on block, it's negative, but it's not punishable. And like 4-2-1, it's a good 12 frame punisher to use. So like Bruce players that do like the big elbow, you can punish them with 4-2-1. And his also the 10 frame punisher, my Wild Rising 3-3. So like people like Brian Free that does 4-4-4 and I block it and push me in crouching, I can punish it with the first two of the infinite kicks.
Oh wow, I actually didn't realize that. I knew that infinity kicks were still strong as a wall rising. Man, for whatever reason, I guess I just never thought about punishing Brian's forward four off of that. So, do you ever for like the standing game? Is it always one jabs, or like is there anything that he gets that's really cool at like 14? No, I guess 14 would be 4-2, right? And then, trying to figure out all the frames and stuff. So he has jabs at 10, and then what's his 12th frame punisher?
It's the 4-2-1.
Is it? Because I thought 4-2-1 was 14.
You're probably right. I know mostly like certain big moves that are non-launchable, I just do 4-2-1 to punish them. But like 1-2-4 is the main 10 to 12 frame punisher. So it scares people. Like I mostly try to punish people that use moves that are like jab punishable. And if I see the big move, then I move into the 4-2-1 punishable area.
So you mentioned that you prefer doing the jabs and then stopping rather than doing the 4. So after you get that frame advantage, all you're doing is just trying to mix up just lows and grabs and stuff.
Yeah, like I'll sometimes do a set where I'll sit back and do 1-2-4s. But if I understand your game correctly, I'm just gonna just do 1-2s and try to see can I crack you even more because I'm like I understand when I crack your game. And also if you're trying to be too offensive, that's where 2-2-3 comes in, and that's the move that everyone hates that they got to go up against Lee, other than back 4.
Gotcha. So that's really interesting because most people would take the damage and do the 1-2-4, but I guess I never really have seen a lot of Lee players just stopping at the 1-2 and then just trying to do guessing games. But that's really interesting. And then I know that the 2 is also 10 frames. So do you ever punish with a 2 or like do a 2-1 say or something like that and try to mix up with those, or is it always 1-2?
Yeah, I still use 2-1-1. I like to use 2-1 to 2-1-1 when I like put people in that mind frame where I don't use 2-1-1 a lot during my matches, and then when I use it, they'll try to attack because they'll keep forgetting about the last one. Or sometimes usually I'll just hit them with 2-1 as a punish. They'll take the hits, and I'll just do that guessing game. Or if they like block the first 2 hits, I know they're going to attack, and I just throw out the 1 and they go into counter hit. Or sometimes they'll be in crouching, which means they always think about 2-1-4. But at the same time, I don't use 2-1-4 unless I get you at that random moment, like you're not thinking about lows. If I know you got this much life, I'm going to use 2-1-4. If you got this much life, I'm not going to use 2-1-4. It's like if you got a low life, they're going to expect a low. Or sometimes if they don't know the character, I would just use 2-1-4 on them. It's very risky, but it's like hell, go for broke. It's either a launcher or a low or a throw.
Gotcha. So do you ever go into the Hitman from 2-1?
I did it a couple of times, but I don't try to do it too many times. Like, I use down 3 into Hitman a lot, and a lot of people will try to hop kick, but Hitman 1s always beat that. But if I start seeing people trying to, like, beat my jabs while jabbing in, you got to put them in Hitman 4. But sometimes just, if they're not going to do anything, just go into Hitman and be ready to block, because we can't auto-block no more in Hitman stance in T6. They took that away.
Gotcha. So I noticed, I mentioned it before, is it back 4 that's the big spin kick, or is it back 4? Because I know one is just like, I think it's a high, or maybe not, but it's just like a roundhouse thing, and that knocks down. But the other one is like a huge spin kick that on counter hit gives you the juggle. Which one is that?
The roundhouse where it's high, it'll smack you to the ground, and back 4, if you don't go into Hitman stance, you get 4-3+4. If not, if you in the hitman stance, just do hitman stance up forward 4, and it'll still hit. And back 4 is the regular juggle where if you get hit on counter hit, a lot of people like to do down 2 because they already be into hitman stance. Or I see some of them that when they hit people with back 4, they just go into down 2. And if I hit you with back 4 and I'm going to hitman stance, I just go into hop kick because that's where the big damage is at. It's like hop kick, 4 back 2s to bound, and back 4 down 3.
Okay, so let me kind of change topics again a little bit because I'm sure that a lot of listeners out here, when it comes to juggles, Lee, as far as like overall juggle damage, I think he's okay. Like he's a little above average, but he's not great until you start getting walls involved. And then I know it's all about the back 2 stuff. So what would you suggest to everybody for like doing those back 2 juggles? Do you always do back 2 juggles, or do you like mix it up a little bit and do other stuff, or how do you approach that?
Well, after studying all his juggles, the most back 2s you ever need without wall stages is 4, and that's only on certain moves like the back 4 one I just said. You can do 3 of them out of 4-4-4 on his down 2, off his down 4-2 and his knee. You really need is 2 back 2s off that in the juggle. You have sway 4 counter hit, and you need about 3 of those. And also for another one, if you want to put people in this guessing game, like after you bound a character, after the juggles, like what I bring up, you time the 4-2-1 after bound, and it pushes them so good far away, you start doing the run, and if they don't know how to dodge and block, if they wake up, they get hit with unblockable tackle, and that's big damage they lose. Or if they just lay there, just let them get hit with the stomp. So either or, you're going to get good damage unless they really know how to walk it or they know how to jump over it. If they don't know how to do none of those, you just put people in that guessing game.
So do you usually prefer to end juggles with the forward 2-1, or you look, because I know a lot of Lee players, since he got the forward 4-3 ender, like I know, or I guess I shouldn't say ender, but like that would be your bound move, and then I see a lot of players doing back 4, and that slams to the ground, and then they try to follow up with a forward 4-3, or try to pick up with down 2 or something like that. So do you prefer doing the forward 2-1 over the other pickup options?
Actually, those options are good. After bound, you could do back 4-3+4, and you put people in this guessing game. Because Slips was rapping me about it like one time, and he told me like, when you do 4-3+4 after back 4 in the bound, you should just go into like either a slide or a crouch dash knee game, which is put people in that 50-50 guessing game, which is also a good thing. If you're good at crouch dashing, that's a good, valuable tool for you. But if you're not very, very good at crouch dashing, just, you could try to back 4 to down 2, but the trick to that is like, you can get around that. But if you want to do the safe option is just back 4 down 3, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you want to get a little greedy, you either do the 4-3+4 game, or you time the 4-2-1 where it hits their feet and you just go into their run game. So it's like he has a lot of options after his juggles into bound and do back 4 and whatever else. But it's like he's a very damaging character with walls or without walls.
Okay, so fill us in on that info. What's the big damage combo that you like to do?
I'll say the one that's simplest is his down 2 on counter hit. If he gets hit with counter hit, you hit him with delayed hop kick. And with delayed hop kick, you do standing 4, back 1-1-4 neutral to 2 back 2s to bound. If you do back 4 down 3, that's like over 100. Or if you do that same exact combo to bound and do 4-2-1, you're already at 103. And you hit him with a blockable tackle, that's like up to like 140.
Okay, so that juggle in particular, obviously, you're probably going to hit that with no walls. But once you get walls involved, obviously, I mean, everybody knows, even if you don't know exactly what it is, everybody knows that Lee has a really sick wall game, and back 2s can get you to the wall. But when you get a character to the wall in a juggle, what are you doing? Like, what sorts of moves or, big juggle, wall ender are you trying to go for?
If you do a juggle across the stage until while rising 2-3, you're going to get a down 4-1 to 4-4-3 bound, back 4 down 3, or you can do back 4 to 4-3 plus 4. And you always want to put people in this guessing game. And you got half the people that actually take the slide, or you got actually half the people that don't want to take the slide. So the ones that don't want to take the slide, you just crouch dash into while standing 2-3. Because that just put us in a good reset where we're going to get 4 up 3, which is the kick to the flip kick, back into bound again. So it's like, look, just take the down 3 into the slide. And, some people, they just don't want to do it.
So I take it then that there's no real follow-up after the slide? Like if let's say that you eat the slide when you're playing against Lee, he's not going to get any more damage off of you after hitting the slide?
It's sort of a guessing game. Like, we can try to hit you another low, but we're not going to try to go for a hop kick or anything because we're going to play it safe. Mostly, I like to prefer to just, after I hit you with this slide, I'm just going to get up because I don't want to do anything stupid to take a risk where I'm going to lose damage on myself for doing a clumsy move.
Gotcha. Okay, so anything, I'm like running out of questions for the juggle stuff. Anything extra that you can think of that may be useful if you're playing Lee for like juggles?
I notice a lot of people don't do, well, there's not a lot of Lee players out there. It's only a handful, like a small few of us. But like 444 is actually a good tool to crush highs, and a lot of people don't use it. And like they should do it twice because it's not a bad thing to do. If you do like 444 like the first time counter hit, and you do it again, and you do down 4-1 into 3 back 2s into bound, that takes hella damage. It's actually a good one, and a lot of people don't like to use back 3 into 4, which is also good. You got to put, like, I like to use that as a guessing game, even though the second hit is high. If you don't use it a lot and people try to attack it, they block back 3 and try to hit you with 4, and they try to attack you with 4. That 4 puts them to crumple. So you get a free damage juggle by just doing down 2 and just juggling them 4 times with back 2s into bound. Like, those are pretty good tools. And sway 4 is also good. Sway 4 into like counter hit, you get 4 up 3, which is the kick to flip kick again. 3 back 2s into bound. That takes a lot of damage.
And I think that that high crushes too, right?
Yeah, it's very good. It's either that or down 2 if you want to time that correctly. The juggle I told you was just like a really big problem if you know how to get the delayed hop kick off on time.
Speaking of hard juggles and like timing stuff, I know this is even in like I think it's one of the sample combos if you go into practice. But I think it's just it's counter hit 1+2 and then run up down forward 4. So just for like those who may be trying to just pick up Lee or something like that, what's a good trick to try and nail that to get the pop up?
From what I'm saying, it has to be like a quick crouch dash game. I can be wrong. Like, I don't really use that kind of juggle because I'm not very good at that. So it's like, when I hit people 1+2 on counter hit, I just say, F it, go for slide. Or you can do a good wake-up game. If they wake up wrong, you can hit it with crouch dashing while standing 2-3, and it'll be on a back turn, and it launches them, and you can just do forward 4-3 to bound. So it gets you a good 50-point juggle.
Gotcha. So what I'm hearing kind of from everything that you're saying, it sounds like for your league game, it's mostly just defense mode until you can get like a little bit of advantage, whether it be through jabs or whatever. And then once you get that advantage, just go straight into a 50-50. Is that right, or are you trying to do like little sway stuff, or trying to get tricksy with it, or is it just like straight 50-50s?
It's basically like punish first. It's about what you said the first time.
All right, then. So you mentioned, like, when we first started talking, you mentioned how Lee wasn't all that safe. But for the most part, we've kind of only been talking about safe moves. So when you say that he's unsafe, like, what sorts of things are you talking about? Because I know, like, for example, 1+2, that's safe. 1-2-4, It definitely doesn't give him advantage on block, but I don't think it's punishable. What else is there that we mentioned? Hop kick is punishable, but we didn't really talk about that. Is back four? I don't know. Is that punishable at all, or is there anything else that you can think of that like really makes him an unsafe character?
Like, of course, 1-2-4 is jab punishable. If somebody throws that out, you got 2-1-1, 2-1-4, where if you block the 4, you can get launched. If they go like down 3, like our low games are unsafe. Like most of them are launchable, like down back 3+4. Even though it's good on hit was +4, but it's still where if they block it, I'm launched. Silvertail, it used to be so good back in DR because you can go into an instant, but now it's full crouching, and it's still launchable, so it's like if they block that or low period, down back 3 is still a good option, but, you know, it's still rising kick. You also have certain, I learned that 4-2-1, I thought it was safe at first on both hits, but like characters like King, he can punish that. Even though you don't supposed to be throwing it out anyway if the first hit is being blocked. Because, you know, duck the second hit, it is like, oh, I can get launched. And a lot of people, I see some people don't punish back 1-1-2. Even though on block it's unsafe. If I get the just frame off, I'm safe. But literally, you can duck the last hit. And we also have back 4 is safe, but if people throws it out at the wrong range, we can get punished badly. So, like, you know, a free electric or Bruce's back 2, Eddie's down 4-2. I mean, like, you have to, like, not try to be throwing stuff out on certain characters, throwing moves out. It's basically just stay safe. In 2-2-3, if they block the 2-2, we're jab punishable. If we try to do the guessing game and they guess right and duck it, we're screwed. Hitman 4 still screwed, even though we're still launchable. It's fast, but if they see it, we're punished. You know, slide is still punishable. They can get a free juggle if they block it.
I was gonna say like slide. I know specifically, you know, slide used to be like a really. It used to be something that was really feared. You know, because there were some characters that could get pretty good juggles off of blocking it. But now with bound, like everyone can get really good juggles off of that. I noticed that with when I started out playing Law, you know, even in T5, you know, characters were getting beefed up, but you know, even then, most characters still couldn't get like crazy damage if they blocked the slide. They would get something, but it wouldn't be, you know, half life or whatever. But now because of bound, and it's so much easier to get you to the wall with bound, like slide is so much riskier. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm a huge slide fan. It doesn't sound like you do slide very much, but for those people who are slide happy out there, just, you know, keep that in mind. That it's a lot easier to punish that now than it used to be.
Yeah, we got to be very careful now these days. Especially like Jack players, they can get a nice combo.
Okay, so you mentioned some of the unsafe moves there. One thing you know that you kept pointing out was like all these moves that you can duck. And as a lead player, you know, when you say unsafe, usually, you know, most people think of like straight punishes. And you mentioned a lot of moves that are block punishable. But I noticed, like you meant one specific example that you said was it back 1-1-2, I think it was that you mentioned, which has the just frame version. But I noticed that there's so many players out there that don't realize that the last hit is high. So I guess it's something out there if you're having trouble with Lee to kind of keep in mind. He does have a lot of strings that end high. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. Back 1-1-2 is an example. You mentioned the 2-2-3. What else is there? I know there's a couple. Oh, 4-2-1 you mentioned. Second hit is high. I see people always missing that duck. So, you know, keep that in mind if you're playing against Lee. Trying to think of anything else. But I guess that's kind of one of the things that is a huge criticism of Lee that at least I hear about is that he has those highs that you can duck, and then his lows aren't the best. You mentioned a few of them. You know, almost all of them, except I think for down back 3 that you mentioned, were launch punishable, which sucks. I mean, they're really good if they hit, but it really sucks if you get that blocked and then they're getting a free juggle on you. So the lows that I know that lows are a big criticism of him. So for how do you kind of work around that? Because I know you mentioned a couple times that you're always trying to get this 50-50 mind game going on. So are you throwing out a lot of down back threes to try to stay safer, or do you go for the bigger ones like the Hitman 4, down 3, stuff like that?
Like, I like to do a few down back threes. I don't want to do too many of them. And then, like, you got to do that mixing mid-game, mid-high game with him. Because they're going to expect more lows from Lee. And you could tell that if somebody trying to attack too much, that's when down 3 is a good, useful tool. Or if you want to just say F it and just go into the 50-50 mix-up game with down 3, you do down 3 into Hitman. And hopefully if you guess right, either get 1-1, they try to launch you, try to do a jump kick, or if they try to attack you again, just do Hitman 4. You also down back 3+4, it's kind of slow, but it's a good tool on hit, because on hit you're +4. So if they try to attack, I mostly like to use 4-2-1. So it takes extra damage. So if they like, oh, well, hit me with a low, whatever, and they try to attack, 4-2-1 is going to win. Just like down back 3, even though it's like +1 to +2, if you're in that good range, 4-2-1 will be it. Or here's another good bait that was actually interesting, even though it's on block. Say like if someone blocks 4-2, I know this off the low game, if somebody blocks 4-2 and you don't bring out the 1, most of the time the magic 4 will beat the person that's trying to attack. But like his low game is like you want to use down back 3, and you want to sometimes use down 3 if they try to attack too much, where they get counter hit, you can either do slide or Hitman 4. Or if they try to attack too much a lot and you're at the good advantage of spacing, you use 2-2-3. And like down back 3+4, once again, it's like if you're in that range, you don't want to be in their face. You want to be at a good, decent range, like what they call it, sweep distance. This sweep distance range, you use down back 3+4. And that way, if they get hit by it, it's like, okay, they're not going to attack. You just might as well do down back 3+4 again. So you make it annoying.
I'm glad you mentioned the forward 2 bait, because I don't know if it was the last podcast or maybe another episode, but we've talked about, even though forward 2 is technically negative on block, because some people and some players, they're going to expect the 1, so they're going to try to duck it, and it completely eliminates all of the disadvantage. So, like you said, after a block forward 2, if they try to do something like that, or if they're waiting for the 1 or whatever it is, usually a magic 4 or something, jabs, whatever it is, will usually beat them out. Because by the time they realize that they have advantage, it's already gone. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's one thing that a lot of people forget, that even if you have strings that end with a high, you can still use that to your advantage. So for you, I'm trying to remember what you said his biggest weakness was. But when it comes to the low game, do you see that as a big weakness for him? Because I know a lot of people usually do, for reasons that we just mentioned. But do you think that's his biggest weakness, or do you think that he has something else that's more worthy of concern?
I kind of say that probably is, because his lows are not scary. So it's like when people fight Lee and they don't duck, it makes it harder for us to try to use launchers. So it's like we got to do all this hard work just to force people to duck. Because if they don't duck, they just like, oh well, we're just gonna take that tiny amount of health. But we're not scared yet. Or if we get low period, it's a big problem, because it's like his lows are not scary. His mid or high game is good, but his lows are not scary at all.
So when you try to break turtles, when you start getting into that mode, are you taking risks with your lows that you have, or are you using more grabs? Like, which one do you prefer to use? Obviously you're going to mix in both, and you're going to try to grab and lows and do some lows, but do you prefer to grab, or do you prefer to do lows?
This against a turtle player, the player that likes his zone.
Yeah, against that, if you're trying to break that shell and you're trying to get in, Are you gonna? Because obviously you're gonna use a lot of highs and mids and try to play a safe game. But if they're just they're turtled up, they're not blocking low, and they're just gonna take all this high and mid stuff out. Are you gonna start using more grabs? Like I guess if you want to answer like for what you think is best for Lee, but I guess I'm more curious about like what you would do. Are you gonna throw more? Do you think throws are more worth it than doing lows, or do you think that lows are more worth it than grabs?
This one before Slip stopped playing. Like I used to play him all the time, and like for his Eddie, it's like you can try to go for throws, but if he sees I'm trying to do it too much, it's like a down 4-2 is gonna beat it. So it's basically like you gotta play a advantage game on health. So it's like you start off the match, if both of y'all are zoning each other, somebody's gonna poke first. And sometimes you don't want to go for throws at the beginning of matches. Sometimes you do. It depends on the player if they're really focused at zoning very well. So if they're really good at zoning very well, you don't want to use throws because that's going to be their advantage where they're going to catch you slipping and they're going to punish you. But mostly it's like you want to play mids. You want to fight them with mids and highs first. Not too many highs, but just a good amount of mids that's quick. And it's like you want to mix in lows where they think they're going to catch another low and you hit with a down 4-1. So it's like when you fight against somebody that zones, you have to crack their shell like slowly and slowly. Don't just rush and just try to go in the kill. You have to really crack them slowly.
Gotcha. So with Lee, it's more of a bait thing. I'm just gonna like tick you until you start coming in at me, but nothing like real, no risk taking. Essentially, is what I'm hearing. You don't want to do too much. Just do a little bit, back off, maybe do a little bit more, then back off some more.
Right, because we don't have much tools.
Yeah, I think even though Lee has those tools, he doesn't have a lot of offensive weapons. More of it is defense. So a lot of it has to do with the player that you're playing against. So unlike like there's certain characters like I would say maybe a Steve or a Nina that can, they could play those frame trap games, but Lee can't really do that. So it sounds like he's more a character that's going to win because you're playing the player and not their character. So, and obviously there's going to be, certain exceptions where, Lee is going to be able to punish one character a lot better than somebody else. I don't know if this is the case, but like you mentioned, Brian, being able to infinity kick the forward 4. I mean that has to be pretty a pretty good advantage for Lee, considering that infinity kicks do a pretty good chunk of damage. But I mean, it sounds like it's more of a player versus player, not necessarily a character versus character. Whenever you're playing Lee, like the Lee player is going to win because he's beating that player, not the character. Well, let me ask you this question. When we the last podcast that we had, we talked about Kazuya, and they mentioned something pretty interesting. Like on paper, Kazuya can be pretty good, but it kind of all of it hinders on the fact that all of the other characters inside and out. So let me ask you this question: when it comes to Lee, and you're talking about tournaments and stuff like that, if you're playing Lee, do you think it's necessary to know all of the other characters and how to get around them? Because there's some characters, like if you look at the top tier characters, I mentioned Steve, Nina, Law. If you're a player that plays those characters, you can kind of get away with not knowing everybody because their tools are so strong. So like if you take a Steve, for example, he doesn't necessarily need to know how a Zafina works. He doesn't really need to know that in order to be able to beat her. Do you think Lee is the same way? Because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like he's not. He's more like a Kazuya, where in order to win with him, you have to know all of the other characters in the cast list. Do you think that's true or no?
I think it's true. I have to learn the characters because it's like we might know, but at the same time, we going to zone no matter what. Because, like, they saying that Lee is really good, but we have to put in a lot of work in. Like, that's what GM does, because GM plays a lot more than me, so he studies every character. And that's what you should do with Lee, because He doesn't have all those frame traps like Neenan and all the other characters do. He doesn't have all of those. I was talking to Slooch at MOK, and like, because he plays with Alyssa, and what he does is a week before a tournament, he likes to study all the characters. He likes to make sure that he's prepared for all these characters, because it don't show Alyssa's a top character player, but Alyssa can go that far in a tournament. It has been proven. Like I'm guessing like people never suspect Lee to go this far in Tekken tournaments. GM just showed everyone that so far in 2011. I did a couple myself, but he did way better than me. On how I see it so far on paper, he won 5 majors. You can't beat that. That proves right there to show that he puts a lot of work in, especially in a 128-man tournament last year. Basically, we really need to understand matchups more.
I'm glad that you said that, because that's one thing that I was trying to get at, and that's actually a really good way to put it. But with Lee, and I think a lot of people may not understand this, or maybe they do, who knows? But Lee is very much a matchup character, and if you don't know those matchups, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And like I just mentioned, if you don't know a matchup, anybody will be in trouble at least a little bit. But especially with Lee, if you don't know the matchup, you have a much harder time than other characters. And I'm glad that you mentioned Slooch, because Slooch, in my opinion, is one of the best defensive players in the country. His defense and his turtling style is so good, and he's just so good at knowing how to get around you, what you're about to do, doing the right crush move in the right situation. It certainly doesn't help, or it certainly doesn't hurt that Elisa has a huge backdash and all that good stuff. But it doesn't take away from the fact that he's a really good defensive player. But Elisa is one of those characters as well where you have to know the matchups. And if you don't know the matchups, it's going to be a lot harder for you than if you played Steve, for instance. And you mentioned Steve is really annoying. Well, that's why he's annoying, because you don't necessarily have to be good with Steve in order to win. You can just, as long as you're a good player and you have an average understanding of Steve, you can go really far. But if you're a really good player and you only have an average level of understanding of Lee, you're going to be losing a lot. So I'm glad you mentioned that matchup thing, because that's really, really important. And I guess that's kind of a good leapfrog into another question that I had. You were kind of talking about it to begin with, but where do you see Lee on the tier list? I mean, from the sounds of it, it sounds like you would put him kind of mid-tier, but would you put him higher than that or lower than that? Where would you put him?
I'll still put him at like high mid, in my opinion, because he's not the best in the world, but he's up there. And from what he was in DR, he had like his lows are very safe, because not safe, but fast. That's what I meant to say. Like, because in DR, like, the whole game was so speeded up, like, instant Silvertail, back 4, if you duck it or back turn, it launches, so it took high damage. Blazing Kick was a little bit faster than what it is today. He had very good tools, but he was still just, like, mid. It wasn't all the best tools, but it was just ones where, he can poke you all day, and you duck, you lose half-life just like that. But on here, it's like, all right, well, we gotta do some sacrifices. Well, you don't auto block no more in Hitman 4. You don't auto block in Hitman, but we're gonna make your Hitman 4 fast. We gave you 2 new items in your Hitman. We decided to give you a Wild Rising launcher, which is Wild Standing, somewhat of the Wild Rising launcher, which is Wild Standing 2-3. They gave us a down 2, which is really good. They gave us an extra low, which is like, 2 lows, but one of them is really good if you catch them on counter hit, which you get you a free juggle. They gave us a lot of tools more than before. Like up 4-3 is safe, but it's a guessing game where you can get either a up 4-3-1 or up 4-3-4. So he's a lot better. This is like his better game, but he still has the scariness of his lows are unsafe, and they switched to Silvertail to full crouching now because it was so dangerous in DR.
So let me ask you one thing that I was going to ask earlier and almost forgot. So how is this tracking? You mentioned a couple instances where you could sidewalk certain things. Does he track pretty well? Is his tracking bad, or am I completely wrong on that, or is it really good? I know like 2-2 for instance has really good tracking, but like back 4, I'm pretty sure you can sidestep that. Maybe I'm wrong. How is his tracking?
Like a lot of people that study my character back here in St. Louis, they was like his weakness is right. I mean, I think he can track pretty well.
So give me some examples of like good moves that would catch a sidestepper, and then moves that can be sidestepped really easily.
Like I like to use down 4 too if people try to sidewalk sometimes, because I guess some people like to sidewalk and attack or sidestep and attack, or Magic 4, or if you're in that range where they don't have time to sidewalk, you can go and hit them with back 4 or like a standing 3, which is also good. Standing 3 also hits them really well. It's a mid. It used to be back 3 in DR, but now it's standing 3. You also got back 4 in sidestep 3+4. It used to be sidestep 4 or sidestep 3 in DR, but they made it sidestep 3+4 either direction. So he has good moves that'll attract them, and if you in that range also use 4 too, because they can't get away from it fast.
Gotcha. And you said 4-2, so at a certain range, 4-2 will track, but if you're too close, then you can sidestep it. Is that the case?
No, I mean like if like you're near each other, 4-2 will get them. But it's like if they're at that range where if I'm like a little bit distant away from them, a little bit, and the 4-2 is not near to connect with them, it's gonna whiff, and they got time to sidewalk the whole set.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you can't sidestep the forward 2, but you can sidestep the 1. Okay.
Yeah, I was really overthinking it earlier. I was like, I believe that, if you block the 4-2, you can't sidestep the 1. You shouldn't move at all. Because it's going to hit you, so you basically can duck it.
Okay, so you mentioned back 4, sidestep 3+4, and those, I know the sidestep 3+4s, like you mentioned, those track really well. Let's say you're in a situation where you're not sidestepping. So if you were to use sidestep 3+4, essentially what you're doing is you're sidestepping with them to realign yourself. So if you mentioned just standing 3, I know standing 3 tracks really well. What other moves does he have that track really well? Like does down forward 3 track? Does that string track? I'm not sure if it does or not. It's too new for me.
Down 4-3 is slow, but I wouldn't use down 4-3 to track them. Like standing 3, because you could sidestep and just do standing 3, or you can do you got standing 3, you got standing 4. You also have down 4-1 if they're not sidestepping all the way, because most of the time like players don't sidewalk or sidestep a lot. They'll try to sidestep where at a small amount of space, but it could still track them. So it's like not putting much worry on Lee unless these players really sidewalk a lot. If they sidewalk a lot, that's when you have to be very careful. But mostly they like to, how I see it, they like to sidewalk when it's like they're really distant. So they want to see if you're going to throw an attack where you're not near them. That's when they sidewalk. But when it's like good range, just use down 4-1, down 4-2 if they try to sidestep and attack, standing 4, standing 3. I'm weird playing with Lee. Sometimes I use back 2 to misstep. It can sometimes catch them because like I'm trying to remember the frames for it. I think it still leaves me on +1 still.
Oh, on block for back 2.
Yeah, I gotta relook that up. It was like still saying like I think like +7 on hit. If I do back 2 to 4 neutral and it's still like on block, it's still like +1.
Well, according to the frame data that avoiding the puddle has up, you mentioned the +7 on hit. It says it's -1 on block, but I mean, when you're in this jab game, that still seems pretty good. I mean, if you were to throw out Magic 4 after that, I mean, it's still going to be 13 frames, which is really quick for a counter hit launcher. So you're saying that you sometimes just like to throw out back 2 just in the open field, not necessarily in juggles.
It's a triangle game because that's also another one I usually do that out of back 1-1 for neutral. I do that guessing game as well.
Back 1-1 for neutral. I don't think that has anything special, right? It stays the same frame advantage no matter what. Let's see. Because back 1-1, that's -2 on hit, and then it says -8 on block. But it doesn't really give anything for.
Like what I do is like people suspect the last hit. So what I do is like I just go into a guessing game where it's either going to be back on 4 neutral, like down 3, or knee, because people will try to duck and it's like, all right, well, knee, and it launches, or 4-2-1 if you want to be safe.
I see. Okay, so you're just playing that ducking mixing game again, just taking advantage of the fact that they might be ducking. That's okay. Okay, well that was really the last question I had was the whole tracking issue. But from what I'm hearing, tracking doesn't really seem to be a huge issue. Like there's certain specific instances with Lee, but for the most part, since you're playing kind of a turtle style anyway, tracking isn't going to be a huge issue. So that was the last thing that I had on Lee. Is there anything out like that you can think of for like must knows, that like specific things that Lee players should know, or maybe if you're playing against Lee, watch out for this or something that we didn't mention? Is there anything that you can think of?
Mostly as Lee players, don't be too fancy. For example of that, somebody posted my video on a Lee thread about me at UFGT7. So like they was judging that my Lee is mediocre because the way I played with him. But the reason why I played him like that is because I didn't want to be too, like, I'm not fancy with Lee, one. And the person that I played against, I didn't understand how he played with Eddie, which is Axiom. Real good Eddie player. And basically, like, you just can't underestimate people that play with these characters because they probably look at videos, from Koreans or Japs saying, like, oh, man, look how they beat these Eddie players, or how Jim will be an Eddie player or how he fought Spiro back then. But I'm not going to underestimate him because anything can happen in, like, a 3 out of 5 or a 4 out of 7 battle. But, some people think, like, one of them was like, I'm a good player. I'm from way back in the DR days. But, some people think I got a lack of knowledge. It's just that basically they understand the player and they don't want to throw out all their information out there like that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I can't think of any specifics right now, but I've known of, there's been a few situations where certain players will keep their mouth shut about their character until after a certain amount of time, whether they're keeping it secret for Evo or, whatever it is. So, yeah, I know what you're saying. People don't spread the wealth all that often, but that's what this podcast is for, man. So if you have any secrets, you better not be keeping secrets to the public. That's all I'm saying.
No, it wasn't secrets. It's just basically like how I played and how I understand the character. Like, I told most of my secrets. It's like Slooch. Like, if you play Slooch's Alyssa, you suspect he's going to do all of this with Alyssa, but he doesn't because he's so very defensive with Alyssa, and he he respects the player and the character at the same time. So it's like you can't underestimate his Alyssa because he's not going to use all those tools against you because he believes that, he likes his character, but he doesn't want to be in a dangerous position against these other characters because he knows what they have.
Gotcha. So for the most part, I actually don't have any general topic stuff. Like that felt like a good segue into something else, but I don't really have any other good discussion topics. So I don't know if you listen to the podcast all that much, but we usually end the podcast with a segment. It's called Sound Off, where you can just like bitch and complain about whatever you want to. So it kind of sounded like you had a little bit of a sound off right there when some people posted your video. But was there anything else specific? I mean, you have an open forum, so if you just want to bitch or if you want to call somebody out or if you want to do whatever you want, now's the time.
Call somebody out? Never thought of that.
You don't have to call somebody out. If there's something specific that you just wanted to rant about, I mean, go for it. That's how we always like to end the podcast, with an angry note. So whatever makes you angry, just pick something and then start ranting.
I'm only going to do this for the goofiness. I fucking hate Scorpion. Slips, that's my homie. But I fucking hate Scorpion. We're gonna get some games in though. But Slips is that player, man. He helps you go farther in Mortal Kombat, but I hate the Scorpion. He makes me want to punch a hole in the TV. Even though he's gonna listen to this podcast, but he knows I hate Scorpion to the fullest. He's gonna be laughing his ass off when he hear this.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I know there's people all over the place talking about his Scorpion because I mean, I don't know a ton about Mortal Kombat. I like to play it. I play it for fun and whatnot. But I know, like, from what I've seen, like, Scorpion, he isn't all that great of a character, but he's good enough. And Slips is just, I mean, he's the man. He's fucking crazy. I don't know how he takes these characters and he just makes them good. But I can understand that. I've seen his Scorpion in action, so I can't disagree with that fucking shit.
Like, real talk, Slips is a good mentor. Like, if it wasn't for him back in DR, because, like, I was hot-headed, like, I would not got far in Tekken. I wouldn't understand Tekken if he didn't, like, beat the shit out of me, put the vid of the year out on me, him and Tekkenomics. But no, like, he will put it in your head, like, you really need to step it up. Like, even in the garbage thread, like, yeah, I messed up some tough stuff in the past, but, like, you know, I let go of that, and, you know, I gotta understand, like, you know, it's not about me. I mean, I like helping players. I help players a lot, but sometimes I need to help myself, but most of the time I need to understand other players that's here and out there. So, like, I'm been doing more and more, try to be a team worker or try to help get everyone else out there. Because I don't like to think about me as the important factor in St. Louis. Like, there are a lot of good players out here. Like, you know, some of us go to tournaments, but, you know, other players, like, they don't go. And it's like, man, you're really good. You need to get out there. Like, I don't want no credit for it. I just want you to go out there, you know. Show that SDL is still strong. Like, I don't need to be this small amount of us to do it, but, like, I want everybody to be dangerous down here. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I can understand that. There's just in general, there's not really a lot of players in the Midwest, so you know we got to get out to those big tournaments and stuff. I completely agree with that, and hopefully, Tekken Tag 2 will increase our numbers a little bit, but who knows? You know, it's still a little ways out there, but. And, you know, hopefully, like you said, maybe Slips will try it a little bit, and hopefully he'll stick with it, because having Slips on your side is always a good thing. And, yeah, STL, it'd be nice for STL to return to glory in the Tekken Tag era. But I know that you guys are missing Conk, so that was a big piece of the puzzle back in the day. I don't know if Hatman is still playing. I know he was real big, you know, kicked it with him a few times, So I guess we'll just have to see what happens. But, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what's going to happen. Like, everybody's still around. Everybody's doing good. I mean, we all try to keep up with each other as much as possible. Like, I still keep up with Slips. Hatman, he keeps up with STL Bad Boy and Slips. Because they all work at the same job. Techonomics, he around somewhere. We'll try to keep up with him. You know, there's me, Shatry, and Chaolan. We keep up with each other. Evil Claw, who else? That boy STL, he still plays. I mean, it's a lot of us. I mean, Chameleon Prince, I think he still keeps up with Slips mostly. Because I heard he does mostly Blizzard, because where he work at. Because I caught up with him a couple of times at EVO. It was good seeing him. It's been a long time. Once in a while I talk to Yugi on Facebook, but I know he does a lot. He loves restaurants, and he's like, everybody's doing good. I mean, we try to keep up mostly as much as possible. We might not mostly play the same games, but, you know, we all try to keep up with each other. You know, that's what STL is. You know, back in the day we shit talk, say you fucking suck and this and that, and after that, hey, let's go kick it at Denny's. You know, Forgotten Kazama, he's out here right now, back home in St. Louis. He's going back on the third, back to Cali, because they call him Steve Tucker out there. He's been doing commentary for the Wednesday night fights. So, I mean, everybody's still doing good. I mean, everybody's still here doing good.
Well, yeah, there's definitely no arguing STL's influence in the Tekken community. That's for damn sure. So glad to hear you guys still keeping it together. I'm sure that, well, hopefully we'll see you guys the next time that we have our big tournament up here. But, I'm sure, STL at some point will have some sort of tournament that everybody can go to. So we can always do that thing. But thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Trying to think if there's anything else to say before we kind of call it quits and let the people go on with their business. So I'll throw that to you. Any last words before we end this thing?
Yeah, like STL still. If anybody likes Mortal Kombat, we do our streams. It mostly be Thursdays, but we've been kind of busy lately because other stuff, and we supposed to did something this past Thursday, but Slips and 16-bit edited a podcast, Combat 2 podcast. But mostly, if you want to see any of our fights that we did on STL, you can go to www.justin.tv/STL Training Ground.
Awesome. That's actually excellent to know. I did not know that you guys did Mortal Kombat streams and stuff. So I'll definitely have to check that out because I need to start getting back into that game because there's nobody around here that plays Tekken. So I got to find something to do. But there you go. You heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Fucking MK streams, STL. Check that out. And I know everybody out there, even if you don't play Mortal Kombat, I know who Slips is, 16-bit. And they're just they're heading out to these tournaments and making a name for Midwest and MK. So definitely something to check out. Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast, spreading some info. Hopefully, like I said, we'll continue your good performances at the Midwest tournaments and when you start traveling to Evo and whatnot. So, yeah, thanks again for your knowledge and coming on. And everyone listening, thank you very much for tuning in. Sorry again for the lateness, the tardiness of this podcast, but with Christmas and everything, it happens, and hopefully we'll be more on the regular with these. So yeah, thanks for listening, and everyone have a good one.